The first thing I remember was the sound of a monitor screaming into the void, and the searing burn in my chest when the paddles jolted me back. My body convulsed, then stilled. For a moment, I thought I had slipped into a dream, but the cheap fluorescent lights above told me otherwise. I tried to swallow, but my mouth was dry as paper. My vision blurred in and out until I saw a man leaning over me. His name tag read Marcus, and his eyes, gentle, worried, told me the truth before his voice did. "You're safe, Mrs. Davis. Just rest now. Safe." The word clung to me like an echo I didn't believe. My chest felt as if it had been split open. My mind searched for something solid to hold on to, and one name floated to the surface: Melissa, my daughter. Then another, Jason, my son. I rasped through cracked lips, "Where are they?" Marcus hesitated, then shook his head softly. "Don't strain yourself." But that night after the shift changed and the ward quieted, I heard him talking near my bed. I was not supposed to hear it, but I did. "Yes, ma'am, she stabilized. Yes, no, she's conscious now. Would you like to speak to her?" A pause. "Okay, got it. Just thought you'd want to know." His voice fell silent, but the words lingered like poison. "Would you like to speak to her?" And whoever was on the other end, my daughter, had said no. I lay there blinking at the ceiling, my heartbeat hammering harder than when the stroke hit. My own children knew I was alive and chose silence. The next morning, when a nurse tidied the table by my bed, I saw it. A folded piece of lined paper left casually under my water cup. My hand trembled as I pulled it closer. "Gone for 10 days. Hope you are better when we return. M&J." That was it. No flowers, no phone numbers, no promise to come back, just a note like you'd leave on a fridge before heading to the beach. Tears didn't come. Not then. Instead, a numbness settled over me, thicker than any morphine drip. I realized in that instant that the people I had carried through the storms of their childhoods had boarded a plane to sunshine while I clung to life by a thread. The ICU hummed with machines, but to me, it was only silence. Silence louder than any betrayal I could imagine. And I knew if I survived this, it would change everything. 9 days later, when they finally wheeled me out of the ICU with a discharge packet and a paper bag of medications, the only one waiting to sign me out was a hospital volunteer. Not Melissa, not Jason, just a stranger who smiled politely and asked if I wanted help into the transport van. The ride back to San Antonio was quiet, the driver fiddling with the radio while I stared at the window, bracing myself to feel at home again. But when the van stopped in front of my house, something in my gut clenched. The curtains were different. The front porch chairs were gone. I reached for the ceramic frog planter by the steps, the one that always held a spare key. Empty. After 15 minutes of fumbling and knocking, the door opened. It was not Melissa. It was not Jason. It was Ryan, my daughter's husband, holding a Starbucks cup like he had been caught trespassing. "Oh, Mrs. Davis. You're home sooner than we thought," he stammered. His eyes darted past me, searching for an escape. I walked past him, each step heavier than the last. The living room didn't look like mine anymore. Furniture had been rearranged, the walls half-painted a color I would never choose. My wedding photos, once proudly displayed, were shoved into a cardboard box near the corner. On the dining table lay a glossy flyer. I picked it up, my hands trembling. "Charming Southern home. Ideal for young families." It was my house, my home of 27 years, listed for sale. I sank into a chair, my legs refusing to hold me. My eyes shifted to a manila folder spread open on the counter. Inside were copies of legal documents, power of attorney, my signature scrawled across the bottom. The date, 3 years earlier, when I'd been recovering from hip surgery. Melissa had insisted it was just insurance paperwork, something harmless to sign, while I drifted in and out of anesthesia. And now here it was, resurrected as a weapon. I grabbed the nearest lifeline, an old iPad Jason used to leave on the pantry shelf. By some miracle, it still worked. The screen lit up, and his messages spilled into view, careless and cold. "Melissa, Once mom's house sells, we'll finally have breathing room. Jason. Yeah. Assisted living is lined up. No more boundaries. About time. Breathing room. From what? From me? The woman who worked double shifts after their father died so they could finish school? The one who loaned them money when Ryan's business collapsed. My chest ached, not from the stroke, but from the crushing realization. This was not a mistake. This was not bad timing. They were preparing to erase me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, under the dim glow of a single bulb, staring at the flyer like it was a death notice. My house, my life, had already been stripped down to a line of marketing copy. Charming southern home, ideal for young families. A phrase that erased me completely. By dawn, I had decided I wasn't going to scream or beg. I was going to fight. I remembered a name, Daniel Ruiz. Years ago, he had been one of my English students, a shy boy who loved poetry. Now he was a lawyer with his own small firm on the west side of San Antonio. I called his office, and when he answered, I said, "Daniel, this is Eleanor Davis. Do you remember me?" He hesitated, then said warmly, "Mrs. Davis? Of course. You taught me to write. What's wrong?" I told him everything. My voice shook as I described the power of attorney, the sale flyer, the messages I wasn't supposed to see. He listened quietly, no interruptions, no disbelief. When I finished, he said, "You're not the first, but we can stop this. Meet me today." His office was modest, just a second-floor suite above a taqueria. But the moment he flipped through the documents I brought, his calm smile sharpened. "They overreached," he said. "This version of the POA doesn't authorize real estate transfers. They can't sell your home, not legally." Relief flooded me so fast it made me dizzy. For the first time in weeks, I felt the ground under my feet again. Daniel filed a petition that same afternoon to rescind the power of attorney and reinstate my full autonomy. He promised to fast-track it. "If we move now, you can flip this on them before they even know what happened." That evening I walked through the empty rooms of my house, one last time. The indent in the carpet where the old couch used to be. The faint outline of a Christmas tree stands still pressed into the floorboards. Shadows of a life that no longer belonged here. I pulled a shoebox from the pantry, my emergency cash, then a worn notebook where I had scribbled passwords since the 90s. They thought I would be powerless. They forgot who raised them. When the sun set, I changed the locks on the doors. Ryan showed up an hour later, rattling the knob. Through the Ring camera, I told him, "Take your tools and leave before I donate them." He said nothing, just picked them up and walked away, shoulders hunched. In that silence, I realized something sharper than betrayal. I wasn't just their mother anymore. I was their mark. Daniel worked quickly. Within 3 days, the court had rescinded the power of attorney and restored my full control. By then, I already knew what I had to do. Staying in that house meant waiting to be cornered again, waiting for them to find another way to push me out. No, I would leave first, and this time they would never see me coming. I relisted the house under my own name, cash buyer only. A young couple appeared, almost instantly, with no contingencies. 11 days later, the sale closed. I stood in the empty living room on a folding chair, eating a peanut butter sandwich off a paper plate, and whispered to the walls, "This is the last time." The next morning, I went to the bank. I closed every joint account they had ever touched, drained the balances, and opened new accounts under a different name, Nora Williams, a variation of my grandmother's maiden name. It felt strange signing those papers, like slipping into an unfamiliar coat that still fit just right. I packed only what mattered, my husband's old watch, a bundle of photographs, and a box of childhood drawings Melissa and Jason once made when they still loved me. The rest, furniture, dishes, curtains, was junk now, scraps of a life that had been stolen from me long before I left. Before I walked out, I wrote 2 short notes, one for each child. No accusations, no pleas, just 10 words. "Thank you for teaching me who you really are." I left them on the kitchen counter, next to the realtor's business card. At sunrise, I slipped my belongings into the trunk of my dusty Corolla. No one pays attention to a silver car with peeling paint. And that was exactly the point. I drove north without GPS, without a plan, the highway opening like a vein before me. By dusk, I crossed into Arkansas and pulled into a town so small it barely warranted a name on the map. The sign read, "Welcome to Fairhaven, a place to rest." I took it as permission. I paid cash for a trailer behind a hardware store. The landlord, a wiry man named Jim, asked only 2 questions. "Do you smoke?" and "Cash or check?" I told him no and cash. That was enough. That night, lying on a thin mattress with my boxes stacked like barricades, I listened to the crickets outside and waited for the fear to come. Instead, I felt something I hadn't in years. Relief. For the first time since my heart had stopped, I could breathe without wondering who was waiting to bury me. In Fairhaven, I became someone new. Nora Williams, retired librarian from Roanoke, Virginia, widowed, childless, looking for peace. It was a story simple enough to remember, and no one in a town of 6,000 people bothered to question it. People assume you are hiding from something when you show up alone, but in a small place like that, they respect the silence. I started volunteering twice a week at the library, shelving books and repairing bindings. The smell of paper and dust felt like home in a way my own house never had. Soon the staff began to smile when they saw me, and children wandered over because I remembered their names. That was how I met Claire. She worked nights at the diner across from the library, a single mother with tired eyes and a quick laugh. Her son Ethan, only 8, trailed behind her after school, clutching dog-eared comic books. The first time he called me Grandma Nora, my throat tightened, but I didn't correct him. Days slipped into a rhythm. Mornings at the library, afternoons helping Ethan with his homework, evenings sharing coffee with Claire. When she got off her shift, I began keeping a small notebook under my pillow, writing down every detail of my new identity, so I would never forget the lies. No children, no San Antonio, no Melissa, no Jason, just Nora. And for a time, it worked. My lungs filled easier. My chest no longer felt like a cracked shell. The laughter of a boy who wanted nothing from me but attention was enough to stitch me back together. Then, one evening in July, everything shifted. It was Ethan's 9th birthday. Claire rented the back room of the VFW hall, stringing paper streamers and setting out mismatched cupcakes. I sat beside him while he opened gifts, clapping when he tore through wrapping paper, smiling when he leaned against me for a hug. Someone handed me a party hat, and I put it on without thinking. One of the other moms, blonde and eager with her phone, filmed the whole thing. 30 seconds of Ethan unwrapping a toy car while I helped him read the card. She uploaded it to her Instagram, just another cheerful clip of a child's birthday. 3 days later, Claire burst into the library, phone in hand, face pale. "Nora," she whispered, "you need to see this." The video had been reposted on a parenting blog, then cross-shared to TikTok. Someone matched my face to old news clippings from San Antonio. The caption read, "Found her. Grandma Ghost is alive in Fairhaven. She changed her name. She's building a new family." My stomach dropped. In seconds, the quiet life I had built cracked wide open. By morning, the video had passed 1 million views. Comments poured in, some praising me as a legend, others accusing me of cruelty. She abandoned her family. No, they abandoned her first. My face was everywhere again, plastered across forums, podcasts, TikTok duets. I sat at the kitchen table in my trailer, notebook open, writing and rewriting my cover story, as if that would keep it safe. Nora Williams, retired librarian, widowed, no children. The lies suddenly felt paper thin. Claire tried to reassure me. People online forget in a week. It will blow over. But I had lived long enough to know better. If the world saw me, then so did Melissa. 2 days later, I saw it. A silver Toyota with Texas plates creeping past the library parking lot. It circled twice, then slid into a space too carefully, like a shark testing shallow water. My chest tightened. The driver's door opened. Melissa stepped out. Jeans, cardigan, paper coffee cup in her hand. She looked older, smaller, as if shame had eaten away the shine she once wore so proudly. She stood near the entrance, scanning the sidewalk until her eyes found me. I froze behind the stacks, watching her through the glass door. 5 minutes passed before I stepped outside. My hands shook, but I kept my shoulders straight. She stared, lips parting, as if confirming I was real. Then her voice cracked on one word, "Mom." For a moment, an old reflex stirred in me, the urge to comfort, to soften, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "Please don't walk away," she whispered. I looked her dead in the eye. "I already held my funeral. You just weren't there." The words struck harder than a slap. Melissa flinched, gripping her coffee like it might anchor her. "We didn't know," she said. "We thought you were fine. We thought—" I laughed, loud, bitter, ugly. "You left me alone in a hospital bed. You tried to sell my house while I was still breathing. Don't you dare say you didn't know." Tears slid down her face, silent and raw. She looked nothing like the daughter I raised, more like a stranger in my child's skin. "I was scared," she murmured. "Scared to watch you get weak. I made mistakes. You made choices. I corrected. And now I'm making mine." She stepped closer, hand half raised, as if reaching for me. I didn't move. "I'm not coming back, Melissa. I found a new life, one that doesn't require pretending we were ever okay." Her mouth opened, then closed again. The silence between us was heavier than the years we had lost. I turned and walked away, not fast, not dramatic, just enough for her to know this was not performance. It was closure. It was 3 weeks before I heard from Jason. Not a call, not a knock on the door, but a letter slipped through the library's return slot. The envelope had my name, Nora, in his handwriting. Inside was a single folded sheet. At the top, in shaky ink, was my own writing. I froze. It was the note I had scrawled in the ICU when I thought I was dying. I had begged then, "If I don't wake up, please forgive me. If I do, please come. I am scared." Jason had written in the margins, his words slanted and desperate. "We didn't know how bad it was. I thought Melissa would go. I thought you'd understand. I am sorry, Mom." For 2 nights I let it sit on my kitchen table, unopened again, as if staring at it could erase the ache. Then, against my better judgment, I answered his email. One visit, no cameras, no excuses. Bring the letter. We met at the cemetery, on the edge of town, a place where truth felt heavier, because the ground itself held people who could no longer lie. I sat on a bench near my husband Frank's headstone. When Jason walked up, clutching a tote bag like it could shield him. For a moment, he looked like the boy he once was, shuffling in the doorway of his first-grade classroom, nervous and wide-eyed. But when he sat down a few feet away, I saw the man who had betrayed me. He handed me the envelope without a word. I opened it, scanning the shaky margins again. Jason finally spoke, voice raw. "I didn't know how to deal with watching you get weak. I thought if we moved fast, it would be easier." I turned to him, my throat tightening. "I didn't need you to be strong, Jason. I needed you to show up." His face crumpled, tears falling fast. "You think I don't hate myself for it? You think I sleep?" "I think you sleep better than I did," I replied, wondering why my own children couldn't hold my hand while I fought for breath. Silence pressed down between us, heavier than the stone markers and all around. "Can I come back? Can we try again?" His voice cracked like a boy's. I shook my head slowly. "That part of me, Jason, you already buried. And this time I chose the funeral." He reached toward me for a hug, but I stepped back, not harsh, just final. When I walked away, I didn't look over my shoulder. His sobs echoed through the cemetery, but they were not mine to carry anymore. The morning after the cemetery meeting, I sat at the little table in my trailer with a fresh slate of notebook paper. The same notebook I had once used to track passwords, the same one where I kept the details of the identity I had built. At the top of the page, I wrote 2 words: "You did it." I let the pen hover for a moment before continuing. "You got out." I listed everything I had left behind. A house that no longer felt like home. A name that had become a burden. Children who treated me like furniture, to be cleared away. And then I listed what I had gained. Quiet mornings, honest conversations, the laughter of a child who loved me without condition, a friend who saw me as more than a bank account or a burden. When I finished, I folded the paper and slid it into a shoebox under the bed, next to Ethan's drawings, and the only photograph I had kept of Melissa and Jason, from long ago, back when they still believed I could do anything. I closed the box, not with anger, but with acceptance. That afternoon, Claire asked if I could help Ethan trim the hedges in front of their porch. I agreed, grateful for the distraction. The sun was warm on my shoulders, the clippers steady in my hands. When Ethan ran up to me with a chipped seashell he had found by the creek, he grinned and shouted, "Grandma Nora, look what I found." I smiled without hesitation. "Perfect! Let's go build something with it." We spent an hour stacking shells in the dirt, laughing when they tumbled, starting over again and again. For the first time in years, I felt whole without having to be healed. That evening, as the light faded, I sat on Claire's porch and watched Ethan chase fireflies. Claire leaned against the railing and asked softly, "Do you ever regret it, leaving?" I thought about the hospital monitor flatlining, about the note on the bedside table, about the real estate flyer Geet had turned my home into a commodity. "No," I said, "I regret staying as long as I did." She nodded, and we let the silence stretch, comfortable and true. The world still spun with stories about me. Online, strangers debated whether I was a villain or a hero. But here, in this quiet town, I wasn't a headline. I wasn't Eleanor Davis, abandoned mother. I wasn't a scandal or a ghost. I was simply Nora, and that was enough. The lesson I carry is simple. Family is not the blood that runs through your veins, but the ones who show up when you are weak. It is the hand that steadies you when you stumble, the voice that answers when you call. And sometimes, it is the family you choose, not the one that was chosen for you.